Fallout from the Hamas attacks and everything that's happened since has contributed to a particularly toxic and hateful year here in the United States. CARE has recorded more than 8,500 complaints of Islamophobia between October of last year and June of this year, including the horrific killing of a 6-year-old Palestinian boy who was stabbed 26 times by his family's landlord in Illinois. Strife and violent confrontations have dominated and roiled Ivy League universities. Angry individuals have ripped down or vandalized hostage posters in cities around the country. And according to the ADL, a spike in anti-Semitic incidents, 10,000 since October 7th, 2023, up from 3,325 in the year before. Joining us now, host of Ayman right here on MSNBC, Ayman Mohyeldin, and contributing writer for The Atlantic, Yair Rosenberg. Yair is also an MSNBC contributor. Gentlemen, I'm really happy to have both of you on. Ayman, we've talked about this a lot over the past year, not as much as I would have liked lately, though. Tell me about what this country is going through from the reporting that you've done, the conversations that you've had.
I mean, I think it's a country grappling with two very important issues. One, domestically, and depending on which community you talk to some extent, there are big swaths of this country who are watching American foreign policy and realize there is a huge disconnect between the values that we uphold and claim to uphold in foreign policy and the actions that the American government is doing. And specifically, it is the kind of unfettered, unconditional support that the United States has provided Israel over the course of the past, not just 1 year, but over the course of decades, but specifically this 1 year, because the end result of what they have seen on the ground in Gaza and now in Lebanon has caused so much pain and anger for a lot of the people here, not just in specific communities like Arab or Muslim American communities, but to a lot of people who wanted to see American foreign policy reflect a different set of values than what is actually happening on the ground.
Politically speaking, there's been an impact as well, as a number of people in this country, specifically in the Arab communities, Michigan, places like that, have said that they don't support the Democrats any longer and have either moved to not voting at all, or to some saying that they think that Donald Trump couldn't be much worse.
Yeah, it's a very dangerous time. I think I've been speaking to people on my show about this, people from the Uncommitted movement, people from Engage Action, which is a large Muslim advocacy organization here. They've come out and endorsed Kamala Harris, but others from the Uncommitted and other groups have so far withheld their endorsement. They wanted to see more specific steps from the vice president as a candidate before she comes into office, if she does ultimately win. And the position that they have taken is she's part of the Biden administration, but they recognize that there's only one president at a time, and the president has more, if you will, control over foreign policy than a vice president. So they've actually been wanting to give her that leeway because they know how dangerous Donald Trump is, because they know how bad he is for the community and for the country and for the foreign policy that they care about. But at the same time, they have not yet seen from her signals of change. She's running as a change candidate on so many issues. She is saying this is a new path forward as a candidate. But when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian issue, they feel, to those that I've spoken to, the leaders in the community, that she has not signaled enough change or any change in a departure in American foreign policy.
Then on the American Jew side, there is also a feeling that Donald Trump is better for Israelis and Israel than the Democrats are. It's not obviously, I'm not painting with a broad brush. There's definitely divisions within American perception as well. But politically speaking, this is an issue, Yair, that has roiled the Democratic Party on both ends of it.
Well, the reason I think it might have roiled the Democratic Party on both ends is partly because the overwhelming majority of American Jews historically vote for Democrats.
Yeah.
And they voted overwhelmingly against Donald Trump in 2 elections, and they're going to do so again. We'll see what the margins look like. This is a core Democratic constituency, and they see themselves not just, there's an Israel question, but there's also just a sense of whatever your feelings on Israel as an American Jew, that you have been, your identity and yourself can be under assault or under attack in America and being held to account for things that are going on in the Middle East. And they want to see the party and they want to see progressives and liberals who they see as their fellows in politics, right, as their friends, stand up for them and say that's not okay, regardless of one's politics on an issue.
There have been a lot of writers who have come out and said there's been a consent structure that's been put in place now to allow anti-Semitism, that it's okay to be anti-Semitic today after what we've seen over the past year in Gaza and what we're seeing right now in Lebanon.
So on this topic, most certainly I feel I have seen certainly a permission structure being created to allow people to justify or even celebrate mass Jewish death, which is horrifying. And again, has really no connection whatsoever to the Palestinian cause or the cause of Palestinian sovereignty and statehood. And in fact, putting those two together, I think, is toxic for that cause. It's also true that, and I've written about this as well, that American Jews perceive similar permission structures being created on the American right. And they see, comments by Tucker Carlson, exactly, these sorts of things going on, right? That there's a long line of Trump whisperers who have these sorts of ideas and views that have moved closer and closer to the center of power as Trump himself has become more and more powerful and centered the Republican Party around himself. And so they look at both of these and they see these as foreboding developments.
And Trump himself blaming Jews if he loses the election.
Yeah.
I think, this is the part that I also struggle with, is when you see somebody like Donald Trump, who has been described as an anti-Semite based on what he has said and what he pretends and values sometimes in these discussions. When he comes out and he says that, if I lose, it's because of your fault.
It's because of the Jews.
Yeah, and when he says things like, when he talks to Jewish Americans and he says your country in reference to Israel, I think that's dangerous. And I think that contributes to the rise of anti-Semitism that we're seeing.
Couples the two things together.